gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit of the WoW podcast. Blue please on cynicalbrits.com. Welcome to my Mage Guide. This is the only guide I feel even remotely qualified to attempt. The rest of them, well, I'm going to be talking to some people who might know the class a little better than me, and they're going to be the guys who are going to be providing that for you if everything goes to plan. If you have any suggestions of people you would like to hear from on certain classes, maybe we could do some collab videos, get some real definitive guides out there in time for Cataclysm, then do please, by all means, let me know. However, this is the Mage Guide. I sort of know what I'm doing with the Mage. I've been playing a Mage now since the launch of the European client. Yes, that was a long, long time ago. That was the initial vanilla game. Oh, yes. The memories and the horribleness. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the talents in their current state in the beta. Just bear in mind that this is all subject to change. It may completely alter by the time that it gets to the actual release. We just don't know. I'll show you them. I will try and give you an idea of the synergy between them, what the new ones do, what kind of specs you should be having a look at. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an example of specs in each of the 3 talent trees. I'm going to show you DPS meters with recount to demonstrate just how good they might be in PvE, explain some of the utility in PvE, and last but by no means least, show you the 3 new skills that are Flame Orb, Ring of Frost, and Time Warp. So, without further ado, ladies and gents, am I sitting comfortably? Yes, I am. We're going to have a look at it. So, I've got a spare set of talents here, so we're going to use that to have a look at what is available. I aim for this to be sort of the definitive guide, something that I hopefully won't have to repeat, but again, things may change. So, you've seen the new talent trees before, as in you know what they look like. You've got these 3 specializations, Arcane, Fire, and Frost. In the current state, Arcane Barrage is the spell that you get from speccing into Arcane initially, and you get your Arcane specialization, 25% increase on Arcane damage across the board, and your Mastery is Mana Adept. That's changed slightly. It increases all spell damage done by up to 13% based on the amount of mana the mage has unspent. Each point of mastery increases damage done by up to an additional 1.5%. I assume it must cap out at 13% then. That just seems to be the way that it explains it, although there's no real way to tell because I won't be able to generate that much mastery anyway. But you never know. So I imagine that a theory crafter will come up with this once the game actually comes out and they're able to really get their teeth into the numbers. Pyroblast is a special spell that you get with Fire. Fire specialization, same deal. Fire spells 25% extra damage. And Flashburn is your mastery. It increases the damage done by all your periodic fire damage effects by 23%. Each point of mastery increases periodic damage done by an additional 2.5. This has been buffed very significantly, and I would now consider it to be fairly competitive. Last but by no means least, we're looking at Frost. Summon Water Elemental is your special. Water Elemental, as you're well aware now, stays around the whole time. It doesn't disappear. Frost Spec, same difference. And Frost Burn is your mastery. All of your spells deal a 23% increased damage against frozen targets, and each point of mastery increases damage by an additional 2.5%. Now, before I go on, I just want to show you Mastery briefly here, because some people are going to get confused. It doesn't mean that every point of Mastery that you have gives you an additional 2.5%. You see, I've got 107 on that one. I actually reforged some of it away. Yeah, that's not how it works. So, here is the amount of Mastery I've got. My current Mastery rating is 217, so my total Mastery is 921. So that's 9 points of mastery. So obviously do the maths on that. That's almost 25% extra on top of what we already have there for, say, Flashburn. Right, let's have a look at specs, shall we? We're going to view the talent trees here. We don't have to go into them just yet. Right, let's start with Arcane. So Arcane Concentration is the same as it always was, really. It's now at Tier 1 in your talent tree, and it's a 3-pointer. This is mostly a no-brainer, honestly. Improved Counterspell, same difference. Again, as you might imagine, your Counterspell also silences target for 4 seconds. And Netherwind Presence, 3% Spell Haste. All of these are really nice to have. They're good dipping talents. So if you want to splash into a tree after you've gotten down to 31 points in one of these, then this is where you're likely going to go. There is much more utility in the first tier of Arcane than there is in anything else right now. Okay, Tier 2, Torment the Weak. Torment the Weak has been nerfed very significantly. Arcane damage spells deal now 6% total more damage to snared or slowed targets, so that is a 50% nerf, but it does only take 3 points and it is quite low. Invocation, this is brand new. When you interrupt something, you get 10% damage bonus for 8 seconds. It is excellent for both PvE and PvP. Very nice to have. And again, you can splash down to it. You can get down to Tier 2 in Arcane, even if you go to a full 31 in either Fire or Frost. It's really not that hard. Improved Arcane Missiles. Again, this you're really only going to want to have for the Arcane tree. Gives you 2 extra missiles fired, and you then have a prereq there for Missile Barrage, which increases the speed of the missiles. You fire more in a shorter space of time. Anyway, improved Blink still on there, and this is actually now pretty good, especially for PvP. A little good for leveling as well, honestly, if you get into a situation you can't handle. 2 points in that will give you, I believe, 70% extra. Okay, Arcane Flows, Tier 3. This is a prerequisite of Presence of Mind, which is basically the same as it always was. 2-minute cooldown on that right now. Arcane Flows reduces the cooldown of POM, Arcane Power, and Invisibility by 12% on the first, and I assume it's about either 20 or 24% on the second. And there you go, 25% is what Arcane Flows now gets you. Not too bad at all. Missile Barrage is a missile every 0.5 seconds at rank 2. There you go. Okay. Prismatic Cloak. This is sort of the same as it always was, really. But it's a little bit higher in the tree, so you don't have to worry too much about that. 6% reduction in damage and reduces the fade time of your invisibility by 3 seconds. Bear in mind, invisibility fade no longer breaks on damage anymore. You can be stunned out of it, but if you are damaged, you will still fade away. This, of course, makes it instant, as you would think. Improved Polymorph, this one is new. Basically, if you damage a target, if anyone damages a target that's been poly, the target is stunned for 3 seconds. It does have that 10-second cooldown on it on the passive. It's very nice for both PvE and PvP. I think that's going to be absolutely killer in Arena. Arcane Tactics. You used to have this before. You now have to spend a point in it. Basically, your party and Ray gets 3% increased damage across the board. That is an absolute must for PvE and, honestly, for PvP. It's only 1 point. Why would you not have it? Incanter's Absorption has changed a little bit. So, when you're Mana Shield or Mage Ward, and that's the new spell. Where is that, actually? Let me just show it to you. People keep getting confused by this. There you go. So Mage Ward is Fire, Frost, and a new Arcane Ward all rolled into one. It's quite powerful. Lasts for 30 seconds. 30-second cooldown on that as well. So that's definitely worthwhile. Let's go back in there. Okay, so when your Mana Shield or your Mage Ward absorbs damage, your spell damage is increased by 20% of the amount absorbed for 10 seconds. In addition, when your Mana Shield is destroyed, all enemies within 6 yards are knocked back 12 yards. That is absolutely essential for PvP, unquestionably. However, bear this in mind. Mana Shield has now changed a little bit. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Where is it? There we go. So, it's actually got a 12-second cooldown on it now. You can't spam it. It does last for 1 minute. And, of course, it drains, at the moment, flat 1 mana per damage absorbed. I don't know if there's an improved version of it. I don't think there is anymore, but I'm sure we'll be able to find that out. No, there definitely isn't right now. Okay, and the last one on Tier 4 of Arcane, Improved Arcane Explosion. This actually reduces the global cooldown on Arcane Explosion and the threat generated. That is very nice indeed. It means you can spam this hard. Okay, what else do we have? Arcane Potency. The critical strike of your next 2 damaging spells by 15% after gaining Clear Casting or Presence of Mind. That's actually a buff and a nerf. It's just spread across 2 spells. It used to be more potent than that. It was the next spell and it had a higher crit. So it's effectively the same kind of thing, but that now makes it a little bit better for both PvE and PvP. A little bit less reliable, but it does mean you can get 2 crits out of it potentially. So yeah, it's sort of 6 and 2 threes really. Slow. Yeah, we know what slow does. Lasts for 15 seconds. Not as pricey as it used to be, but it does unlock this. Now, this is unbelievably good. Nether Vortex gives your Arcane Blast spell a 100% chance to apply the slow spell to any target it damages if no target is currently affected by slow. That is absolutely unbelievable. And of course, that combos very nicely with Torment the Weak. It means your single target DPS is not going to involve you casting slow anymore. That's going to save you a ton of mana, and it's also a lot quicker, more convenient. You're not wasting a global cooldown on the slow, so it's good in PvP as well. Absolutely essential for Arcane PvP as well as PvE. Focus Magic. Same deal as it always was. And improved mana gem. Yeah, you should remember this. It's very nice. It was one of the tier set bonuses. Mana gain from your mana gem also increases your spell power by 2% of your maximum mana for 10 seconds. And of course, as Arcane, you have a metric ton of it. Last but by no means least, Arcane Power. 20% more spell damage, 10% more mana to cast. It lasts for 15 seconds. It has a 2-minute cooldown. And as far as I can tell, that is the case with Arcane Flows. Let's see if that... it's not affecting it there, so I assume it's actually even quicker once you learn all of that. Okay, let's reset that then. Excellent, we don't have to dedicate ourselves entirely to that, and we're going to have a look at Fire. Right. Now, Fire does have a couple of nice splash talents you might want if you go heavy into either Arcane or Frost. So, we have a look at Master of Elements here, 30% refund on spell criticals for the base mana cost. Very nice indeed. And Burning Soul as well, that's a good splash talent. 70% reduction in spell pushback. Very, very good indeed. Now, improved Fire Blast is a lot better now. 8% extra crit, and it increases the range by 10 yards. Fire Blast is actually more critical to the PvE as well as PvP experience now, more so than it was, and I'll show you why in just a moment. Ignite, yes indeed, that's the old standby, and of course essential to any Fire Mage, regardless of PvE or PvP orientations. You're going to need that, and of course that's where a lot of your flash burn mastery damage is going to come from. Firepower. So, 3% extra fire spell damage, and your Flame Orb will explode at the end of its duration, dealing damage. So, it's kind of like a moving, living bomb. Blazing Speed. PvP pretty much only here. Gives you 10% chance when hit by melee or ranged attack to increase your movement speed by 50% and dispel all movement impairing effects 8 seconds. Yep, pretty much essential for PvP. Now, Impact. This is now not just a PvP ability. So you've got a 10% chance to reset the cooldown on Fire Blast and to cause the next Fire Blast to stun the target for 2 seconds. And, here's the big one, spread any fire damage overtime effects to nearby enemy targets within 12 yards. That is unbelievably good, seriously. Great for trash, and good for any bosses that also have ads with them. Cauterize, this is your amazing I can survive anything ability. An ability that would otherwise kill you. Any attack that would otherwise kill you will instead bring you to 40% of your maximum health, and then it will set you on fire, and it deals 12% of your maximum health every 1.5 seconds for 6 seconds. That can't occur more than once per minute. This is fantastic for both PvE and PvP. If you make a mistake, Cauterize can save you. If you get hit really, really hard by a particularly dangerous attack in PvP, this can also save you. But bear in mind, it is not making you invincible. You will die unless something is done about it. There's a couple of things you can do. You can pop up your mana shield, or what I would recommend, because it's far, far more efficient in terms of mana, is you go to your Arcane and you pop your Mage Ward. Since this is going to absorb 5.8 thousand fire damage, this will generally keep you alive through that. You can, of course, also Ice Block. That will clear the Cauterize burn effect entirely, or last but by no means least, you can be healed in the process, and you will survive it. One way or the other, that is the pick of the talents for Fire. It is the best talent I've ever seen. Unbelievably good. Blast Wave. Same as you might expect, however, there are two key differences. One, it's got a 40-yard range now, so you can actually cast it and you can land it wherever you like, just like an instant flame strike. 2, look at that mana cost. Incredibly efficient in comparison to other spells like Flame Strike. 15-second cooldown, very, very nice indeed, and there are some talents that buff that even more a little bit later. Hot Streak. So, you know how Arcane Missiles works, right? Maybe you don't, so we'll make this the complete Mage Guide. So, Arcane Missiles is now a proc. You can see it there, it's grayed out. On there's a certain chance to hit that it'll activate Arcane Missiles, and then you can fire it, just kind of like Hot Streak. Hot Streak replaces Arcane Missiles with Pyroblast, so critical strikes with Fireball, Frostfire, Scorch, Pyroblast, or Fireblast have a chance to cause your next Pyroblast spell to cast well, to be an instant cast within 15 seconds, and also, of course, cost no mana. This is not the same as it used to be. However, there is an upgrade for this now, so you can make it even better. This is the old hot streak. So this can happen anyway. This makes it more likely to happen. Anytime you score 2 non-periodic critical strikes in a row with those abilities right there, you have a 100% chance to trigger the hot streak effect. So you're going to want this one way or the other. PvE or PvP. Obviously, instant Pyroblasts are very nice to have. Improved Scorch. 100% reduction in cost. This is your I'm out of mana and ones are stupid ability. Okay, what have we got down on tier 4? Some delicious stuff aside from improved hot streak. Molten Shields. Reduces the global cooldowns of your Mage Ward spell by 1 second, and your Mage Ward triggers the blazing speed effect when it dissipates from absorbing damage. That's PvP only, really. It's not too bad at all. Combustion is interesting now. So it now instantly deals damage, and it creates a new periodic fire effect on the target, lasting 10 seconds, and it deals the same amount of damage per time as all of your existing periodic fire effects. Now, it doesn't say on the target for existing periodic fire effects. I don't know whether or not that's the case, but we will try and test that in the dummy test that's coming up later on in this video. This is better than it used to be, because this used to override your existing dots. Now it's in addition to them, so that's a lot more damage over time you can do with that. Cooldown is only 2 minutes on that as well, which is very nice indeed. Fire Starter, this is really cool. If you've got Molten Armor up, you can cast Scorch while moving. It also... yeah, that is absolutely fantastic, unquestionably good, amazing for PvP, and it has some utility in PvE as well. Okay, down to tier 5. Improved Flame Strike. This is excellent now, it's really good. So your Flame Strike becomes instant, which is fantastic, and it gives your Blast Wave a 100% chance, if it hits 2 or more targets, to also automatically cast a Flame Strike free of charge. That is unbelievably good, and it makes Blast Wave easily the best area of effect in the game, so it's well worth having. Dragon's Breath, no big changes to that. You know how that one goes. It's mostly a PvP ability, kind of nice for trash. Molten Fury, same as it always was, 12%. Extra damage to any target with less than 35% health. Okay, Critical Mass. This is very different to how it used to be. Living Bomb and Flame Orb actually deal 15% more damage. And your Pyroblast and your Scorch have a 100% chance to cause your target to be vulnerable to spell damage, increasing spell critical chance by 5%. And that lasts for 30 seconds. So that's your old... it's your old improved Scorch ability. It's good stuff. And it can be applied via Pyroblast now as well, and since you're getting quite a lot of hot streaks, you generally don't have to use Scorch, which is really nice, because of course Scorch does reduce your DPS quite a bit. Pyromaniac, ladies and gents. Spell haste by 10% if 3 or more targets are taking fire damage over time from your spells. Yes. That is excellent and really, really good for both PvE and PvP. You should definitely take that one. Last but by no means least, of course, Living Bomb. You've got a limit of 3 targets on this one right now. It is very nice to have, although bear in mind you can throw away a lot of mana very fast here if you're not careful. It benefits a massive amount from your mastery. Okay, so let's look at fire. Let's go and have a look at frost then, shall we? And then what we're going to do after that is we're going to have some tests. We're going to do some damage, and I'm going to try and show you some rotations and try to figure out some of them for myself as well. Okay, frost is probably... well, I would say that it's arguably the least synergistic in the first tier for splash talents, but that's not really the case. It's just more situational. So, early frost, you absolutely have no use for this if you are not frost. So it reduces the cast time of your Frostbolt by 0.7 seconds, and the effect becomes inactive for 15 seconds. So you get a really quick Frostbolt to open up. So in a PvE damage rotation, you can count that as basically a flat increase in haste, because if you calculate it, it means that one of your Frostbolts is faster than the others, so your overall casting speed over the course of a 15-second period is going to be higher. Piercing Ice, good splash talent, 3%, flat crit, pretty boring, but otherwise worth having. And this one, again, is definitely situational. If you are raiding or grouping with another mage that can do frost, then actually this is quite nice, because it's a critical chance of all your spells against frozen targets by 3, not just your frost spells. So, like I say, if you're in a 25-man raid environment particularly, this one might be worth splashing into, because of course there are ways to freeze targets that would otherwise not be frozen, or indeed have them count as frozen. That said, it generally involves going further into frost to make that happen. Okay, Ice Flows, same as it always was, really reduces the cooldown of a whole bunch of different frost-based abilities. That's a must-have if you are speccing deeper into frost. Improved Cone of Cold, this is very nice indeed. It freezes your targets for 4 seconds, guaranteed. So it's not like the old Frostbite, it is a guaranteed freeze. Very nice indeed. That's a lot of big damage that you can throw if you get in there with a Cone of Cold. Piercing Chill. Your Frostbolt criticals apply the chill effect to 2 additional nearby targets. This is really nice to have in both large-scale PvP as well as PvE environments. And here's Permafrost for you. Chill effects reduce the target's speed by an additional 10% and the target's healing received by 25%. This is killer. Literally. This is a smaller version of Mortal Strike. And bear in mind, of course, comboed with this, you can apply it to multiple targets. In addition, whenever you deal spell damage, your water elemental is healed for 15% of the amount dealt. So you don't have to worry about your water elemental dying, really. You can heal it really fast without... And also the healers don't have to worry about it either. Ice Shards. Chill effect to your Blizzard spell. So this really slows people down, although not as much as it used to. In addition, it increases the range of your Ice Lance by 5 yards. So that's... yeah, that's worth having, honestly. It's good to have some extra control in battlegrounds as well as in large area of effect pack environments in raiding. Icy Veins, very nice indeed. Reduces spell pushback while casting by 100% as well, so that's really sexy. Okay, Fingers of Frost, yes. Gives your chill effects a 30% chance to grant you Fingers of Frost, which causes your next Ice Lance or Deep Freeze spell to act as if your target were frozen. Fingers of Frost can accumulate up to 2 charges and lasts for 15 seconds. That is absolutely excellent, because with your Ice Lance, you can treat a chill target as, or indeed any target, as frozen, which means you've got massive crit damage potential on them. Really, really good indeed. And of course, that combos very nicely with Piercing Chill, because you've got chill effects going off all over the place, which means you can keep 2 stacks of Fingers of Frost on all the time. Your Deep Freeze is capable of doing a large amount of damage to bosses, which is really good, and this is going to synergize very well there. And of course, your Ice Lance is going to hit like an absolute truck, and can be used while moving, so it's critical for both PvE and PvP as a Frost Mage. Improved Freeze. Gives your Water Elemental's Freeze spell 100% chance to give you 2 stacks of Fingers of Frost. Definitely worth having. Of course, remember to cast it. Okay, Enduring Winter. 10% mana cost reduction of all spells. That really doesn't make a huge amount of difference, because you can't splash down that far anyway. It just can't be done with the new talent system. Bear in mind, you always have to go to 31 points before you unlock any of the other trees. It's good to have nonetheless. In addition, your Frostbolt spell has a 100% chance to grant up to 10 part of your raid members mana regen equal to 1% of their maximum mana over 10 seconds. That's pretty much a must-have. Cold Snap, same as it always was. Cooldown of all frost spells you recently cast, 8-minute cooldown, and you can reduce it more with Ice Flows. Brain Freeze. So this removes the Arcane Missile proc effect. Instead, your frost damage spells have chilling effects, which have a 15% chance to cause your next Fireball or Frostbolt spell to be instant cast and cost no mana. When Frost Firebolt is instant, it can benefit from Fingers of Frost. Brain Freeze cannot be triggered by Frost Firebolt itself. Yeah, that's pretty killer. Like, hey, I'm just going to toss out some Frost Firebolts. Why not? Really, really good indeed. Right, Ice Barrier. Spellcasting is never delayed by damage once Ice Barrier is up, so it's definitely worth having. 30-second cooldown, absorbs a ton of damage, and it's got 2 possible abilities. You can actually take either of these or both if you so desire. Shattered Barrier. This is definitely a PvP ability. So when the Ice Barrier goes down, it freezes everyone within 10 yards for 6 seconds. It's excellent. Really, really good indeed. You can turn the tables on melee classes with that. Or Reactive Barrier. This is definitely PvP, in my opinion, although it does have some PvE applications. It's an automatic, oh god, what the hell's happening to my face button. So 100% chance that if you go below 50% health, it will cast Ice Barrier for free if the cooldown is available. So, like I say, that is a talent that really could be replaced by just being quicker on the draw, but hey, it's cool nonetheless, and I'm sure some arena players are going to really like that, because arena play can be very hectic, and sometimes that timing and just that extra button press that you don't have to use can make all the difference. Frostfire Orb. So, your Flame Orb becomes a Frostfire Orb, slows targets. In addition, it reduces the speed of targets slowed by your Frostfire Bolt's chill effect by an additional 20%. It's not bad. It's mostly PvP, honestly. It does gain the chill effect, though. So, like I said, there is utility in PvE for that, and you're going to be using a Frostfire Orb quite a bit. Like I said, a lot of these Frost talents are really useful for both, and they've done a fairly good job in making sure that's the case. Last but by no means least, Deep Freeze. Stuns the target for 5 seconds, 30-second cooldown, 35-yard range, very cheap mana cost, only usable on frozen targets. However, it deals a huge amount of instant damage to targets that are permanently immune to stuns. So, it has PvE utility there as well. And you'll have noticed that you can use all of your talent points in a single tree and fill up everything right there. Okay, those are the talents, folks. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to log on to 3 different mages, and I'm going to show you 3 different specs, and we're going to be doing some damage and having a look at recount. I'll also show you the 3 new abilities you're going to get and what they actually do. Now, before we go and do some dummy targets, and all of that is going to be in the second video, I'm splitting this in 2. The first of this is all going to be theory, and then we're going to put some of it into practice and try and figure out the optimum rotations. Let's have a look at some actual spec choices for PvE. So, let's say we're going to go to fire. Well, we're going to want to take Master of Elements. That's an obvious one. And you've got to really kind of choose here. Burning Soul is a pretty good one, so we'll keep that one for the time being. Okay, 3 points in Ignite. That's a no-brainer. Also, 3 points into this one, Firepower. That is also an absolute no-brainer. 2 points in Cauterize. You don't need this if you're very confident that you won't totally screw up, but it's nice to have nonetheless. 1 point in Hot Streak is an absolute must. This is arguable, honestly. That's a real choice, so we don't have to go for that one just yet, but we do want to go for that. 2 points, Improved Hot Streak. Absolute must. Firestarter, again, not necessary for PvE, but handy to have. Scribe of Combustion, we definitely don't need Molten Shields. That's very much a PvP talent, so we do have to spend a couple more points here. I'll take 2 in Impact for that spread I was talking about. Okay. Definitely 2 points Imp Flame Strike. 3 points Molten Fury. Gotta take Dragon's Breath to get their Living Bomb, which is very annoying, I know, but you've still got to do it. 2 points Pyromaniac. 3 points Critical Mass. And that will take you down there. Now, we've just spent 32 points in Fire. And that, to me, is every absolutely essential PvE ability. But there are a couple of options. You could take Improved Fire Blast. It's going to end up being in your rotation somewhere if you are doing anything that involves any kind of area of effect. If you've got more than one target, you're going to want to take advantage of Impact there. Otherwise, you could throw away Impact entirely if all you want to focus on a single target DPS. And again, I don't really agree with that necessarily. But again, also, Trash is not necessarily your priority. We're talking about single target boss DPS, then actually, you don't really need Impact. The problem is you're going to have to put it somewhere else. So you could put it there, for instance, but then again, are you really going to be casting Improved Fire Blast at any point if you don't have Impact? That's the question you've got to ask yourself. So, honestly, that's not all that helpful, really. You can't take that out of there for the moment. You could take 2 points Imp Scorch, and then take it out of there. That's probably the best way to do it. But again, are you going to need that free Scorch? It's always handy to have. But yeah, those are your options there. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to stick with... Let's see... Let's take Impact, take that out of there, knock that down. And can we take 1 point out of there so that we've got 10? Well, not really. The thing is, you don't need 10 in another tree. There's no real point. Let's have a look at what we've got available. Arcane Concentration, no-brainer for PvE. Netherwind Presence, also a no-brainer. 4 points available right here. What are you going to take? You're not going to take that, because that's Arcane only. You'll probably take that if you've got any sense, but then you've got nowhere to go. This is not really all that helpful in PvE. This is completely useless in PvE. So, if you like, you could then take 2 points Piercing Ice. Because you're not going to use that, and you're not going to use that either. Alternatively, you could take 1 out of that, Depends what you find more valuable. Do you want 1% crit, or do you want 1% haste? Alternatively, after all that, if you really want to do something silly, knock 1 point out of that if you can, which you actually can't because we need to get all the way down there. You'd have to knock a point off somewhere. The problem is you can't get rid of this. This is the worst thing, because that's blatantly useful in PvE, whereas this really isn't. So that's fairly annoying, honestly. Is there anything else we take out? That's now quite a nice PvE cooldown. I wouldn't take that out. Maybe not one off of Cauterize. You can't do that either. So, in reality, you're kind of stuck there. And that's going to be your splash. You're going to have 8, 32, 1, or you're going to knock 1 out of there, and you're going to put 1 in there as well. Or, if you really don't care about Invocation, you can take that out of there, put 1 in there, and a further 1 in there. So you've got 3 and 3. That is arguably better, honestly. It depends how often you're going to be interrupting spells. There are quite a few 5-man bosses that I've seen where this is really handy, and of course you've got trash packs as well, and that'll give you 8 seconds of 10% flat extra damage. Is that better than 3% and 3%? Arguably not. You're looking at dropping 2% crit for that. I don't think that's necessarily all that great for PvE. I personally would prefer the more reliable aspect of it right here. The 3% and the 3% flat, because you know it's there, you can rely on it, and it's not something that's very situational like Invocation. So that would probably be how I would build for PvE. Missing out Fireblast, miss out Scorch, miss out Firestarter, and miss out Molten Shields because it's useless. Aside from that, 3 in Netherwind, 3 in Piercing Ice, and 3 in Arcane Concentration. Right. What about if you're going PvE Arcane? Let's go and have a look at that one, shall we? So you're going to take Arcane Concentration, and you're going to take 2 points in Netherwind to go down to the next tier. You're going to take 3 Torment the Weak. Now what are you going to take? You're definitely going to take 2 of these. That's an absolute must. You've got to have that, and then you've definitely got to have that, because that's a massive DPS increase. Now, you're looking for Presence of Mind specifically to get this. So you need 2 in Arcane Flows right there. So you've already unlocked the tier. There we go. 2 unlocks the tier. Improved Polymorph. I would skip, honestly. It's nice, but really you shouldn't be breaking them anyway. What else do we have? Arcane Tactics, gotta take it. Encounters Absorption. Don't really need that at all, honestly. It is very situational. Yeah, sure, you can absorb some stuff like that, and you can gain a little bit of a damage boost, but I don't like anything that's not reliable. This is probably something I would take, honestly. 80% threat reduction, really fast arcane explosions, great for AoE packs in both boss and in trash situations. Definitely worthwhile. Unfortunately, that means we can't get down to the next one without taking something else. So, let's take the reliable one. Okay, we'll need to take something else as well. So we can put 1 in Invocation for the time being, which unlocks this. Okay, Arcane Potency. Gotta have that one, unquestionably. Slow, gotta have that to unlock Nether Vortex. There we go. So, Focus Magic, yes. Improved Mana Gem, yes. Which leaves you with 2 points before you can go down to Arcane Power. So we'll put 1 in Invocation. And what else can we have? We can have Prismatic Cloak. That's okay for PvE. We could take a point in this, which is quite good. We can also take a point in Encounters Absorption. Personally, I would give the healers a little bit of a helping hand and use Prismatic Cloak to reduce incoming damage by 2%. Arcane Power. There you go. 10 available talent points. Question is, can you spend them on anything useful? Yes. 2 Master of Elements, 3 Burning Soul, 3 Piercing Ice. Absolutely. Can you get anything on tier 2 that is useful? That isn't all that great. That is hopeless. This, no. Really, you're not going to use that all that much. It's okay because it makes your Flame Orb explode at the end of the duration. Plus, if you use Flame Orb in your rotation, which you might, it's going to give you a little bit extra damage, but I wouldn't call it amazing. And can you grab Ignite? Well, you could, but again, you're not going to be dealing much fire damage. You'll be using maybe a little bit of Fire Blast, but mostly you'll be using Flame Orb, and that doesn't do much damage anyway. So I would use the extra 2 talent points to give your healers even more of a break. Put 3 points in Prismatic Cloak. 33, 5, and 3. That would appear to be optimal there for an Arcane PvE DPS. Of course, bear in mind that this is all subject to change. This is based on my knowledge and my experience with it, which is not complete because, hey, nobody has complete knowledge of the Cataclysm beta yet. So take all of this with a pinch of salt. This is a learning aid. This is not saying, you must do this. Please don't do that. There are much smarter people who will do the numbers at some point. Elite Jerks will do it. The SA forums will do it. Loads of other places will do it. So pay attention to them, but this should hopefully give you an idea of what you're supposed to be doing. Frost. Okay, PvE. Setup for Frost. This is a little bit more complicated. So you're going to go Piercing Ice, and you're definitely going to take early Frost, because like I say, that's flat haste, effectively. You're going to want to take Shatter as well. You're going to want to take all three on that level right there, unquestionably. Ice Flows is a definite yes. Piercing Chill, that's a yeah, probably. Permafrost, yeah. The MS effect, unmissable. Improved Cone of Cold, useful for trash. Piercing Chill, also useful for trash. And add packs in boss fights. We'll come back to that. Ice Shards, no. You really, really don't need that. It's nice to have if you've got spare points, but I don't think you will. Fingers of Frost, you must take that, and this is arguably useful. It really is. If you're using this often, then you're going to want to take it. Okay, we'll come back to this in a minute. Icy Veins, of course, there you go. Frost is, like I say, it's the most difficult one because there's a lot of synergy between the PvE and the PvP talents, so you end up wanting to take more than you really need. And during winter, you've got to take that one. No doubt about that. You would be slapped around by your raid if you didn't. Cold Snap, yeah. Why? Because you can reset Icy Veins. More damage. Absolutely. Brain Freeze, definite yes. Ice Barrier. Potentially, you could ignore all of this, if you so desired. It's nice because, of course, no spell pushback while it's active, and it's something that the healers are not going to have to heal you for, but it's quite pricey. You could do without it potentially, but we will come back to that. Frost Fire Orb, yes, because you want to be inflicting that chill effect. Here's the problem if you don't take Ice Barrier, though. You don't get this. So, really, you're going to want to take it anyway. It's 1 point. Okay, so 10 unspent talent points right here. What do we do with them? Well, here's the problem. Now, in the Frost tree, we have much more of these talents that I would say, yeah, these might be useful in PvE. These two particularly, Improved Cone of Cold, Piercing Chill, also really great for multiple boss encounters. So say if there's more than one mob that you're trying to DPS down, it's kind of nice to have. If you take both of those, that reduces you to 6. What else are you going to take? You're not going to take that, really. You're not going to take either of these. These are mostly PvP, or hell, I'm not paying any attention buttons. Leaves you with 6. If you so desired, you could take 3, and you could take 3. Or, if you're really concerned about your mana, take all 3 mana reduction abilities. This, in my opinion, is overkill. I really don't think you're going to need this. That said, with the effect of Molten Armor these days, you might. You very well might. It takes so much mana to nuke these days, and without Mage Armor up, it's really hard to stay going. So, maybe you do want all 3 mana regeneration. Honestly, that's something you're going to have to test for yourself. What if we took that out? Well, we could get the spell pushback. Do we really need it? It's nice to have. But again, bear in mind stuff like Concentration Aura. This stuff's usually already covered. And with your Ice Barrier, you'll be able to get rid of that as well. The 3% haste is delicious. No doubt about that. Which gives you the 3% crit and the 3% haste. So again, you've got options there when you're splashing into your different trees. Okay. So that's an overview of the PvE talents and skills for the Mage. When we come back, we're going to be having a look at these talent specs in practice. I have 3 separate talent specs set up and ready to go. We're going to do some DPS with them. We're going to hit some targets. We're going to see how much damage they do. All of these characters are in identical gear, and we're going to try and figure out what the best rotations are as well. So I will see you in the next video, which is just above there, if it's been uploaded already. If it hasn't been, well, you're just going to have to be a little bit patient for it. Good God, I just talked for 40 minutes about mages, and I'm going to do it even more. My name's been TotalBiscuit, and I will see you in the next video.